r/ask Reddit. What screams I'm way richer than I look? Wearing a t-shirt and jeans in a room of people wearing suits. My company CEO does this all the time. I recently went to get a car wash. I sat next to and talked to a guy who was wearing Crocs and sweats. His clothes looked new, just not expensive. He got into a newer model Porsche Panamera. Back in high school I used to do rowing. And at the rowing club there was this guy who wasn't great at socializing, was a little awkward, but he was friendly so I didn't mind him. We often went out on the same boats and would talk to each other as much as was possible while rowing. And at the end his dad would always pick him up afterwards wearing sweatpants, slippers and a hoodie. You might understand why. Then, I didn't believe my friend when he told me that they were one of the richest families in the world. I looked them up, and sure enough, there they were, worth an estimated $15.5 billion. Now whenever I see someone out in public looking like they are wearing what they slept in I always assume they're mega rich and don't care about a thing anymore. Not knowing prices for common household items, foodstuffs. Either they're getting the super deluxe version and don't know the standard price or they haven't done their own food shopping for years. It's one banana. What could it cost? $10? Being unimpressed by rich people shit. Guess I'm richer than you look. Going on multiple family vacations a year but not bringing back many trinkets. We do this but definitely not rich. We deliberately travel light, only take whatever we can fit in carry-on. The type that nonchalantly offers you a spot in their luxury box at a game or concert, or covers your course fees at a golf outing even though you barely know them. Knew a gentleman that lived fairly modest. One time mentioned I was looking forward to going to an NBA game for the local team. He said, "Oh, that's nice. If you stop by the office I give you some better seats." I didn't think much of it but did need to go by the office for work. Checked in at the front. "Hey, I am so and so and here to see boss." "Oh hello, I have your courtside tickets and he will be down in a few to sign your form." She handed me 5 courtside seats. He had them for every game in case he or a customer wanted to go. Look at the watch and shoes. That's always a tell. Some rich people dress like shit, but they always get good watches. And I've heard somewhere that they almost never wear the common brands like Rolex and stuff. Rolex watches often attract the exact opposite. People who want to look richer than they actually are. Or it's just someone who enjoys watches. Really, Rolexes aren't that expensive in the watch world. Status symbols are for the lower classes and the climbers. The wealthy just live in whatever is comfortable to them. Not flexing their shit but you still feel like they flex their Lego Death Star at you. Can someone translate? They are so rich even when they don't flex you feel like they flexing because they have so much stuff you can't ignore. Legos are very expensive. Not flexing your stupid brand clothing. Really rich people don't wear clothes with a big brand on display because they don't make free publicity for anyone. For clothes they have specific shops who could tailor them high quality clothes, purses or shoes anytime. Buying popcorn at movies. I bought a small popcorn once and cried because it cost more than my movie ticket. They avoid any discussion of money. When paying for anything they like to do it privately quietly before anyone else is aware. So you end up walking in and out of places feeling like you haven't paid. Almost as if money doesn't exist. They don't flaunt it. Source. I was dating a girl and didn't realize she and her whole family were rich until her dad picked us up for dinner in a brand new Mercedes. Proceeded to pay for everything during our trip. And our Christmas presents were first class flights to the US from Australia for a ski holiday. That's around 10 Australian dollars 15k, 7 US dollars 11k per person. He also financially supported his other daughter at Cornell University, and she now does physics research there. I grew up poor, and still am. LOL. But I never realized how poor until I met that family. Oh god. I dated a rich girl in high school but didn't realize it until it was time to meet her dad. She had me meet them at a restaurant that there was absolutely no way I could have afforded the tip, let alone my meal. It was awkward, for me, at least, assuming I wasn't going to pay anything when the check came. When people think of expensive clothing, they often think of fancy brands like Gucci, But really rich people usually consider these brands to be tacky for the most part. There are entire luxury brands of suits, dresses, clothing, watches etc. that are used to display wealth among upper class people that would be kind of innocuous to the average person. Most anyone could recognize a Rolex, but to a person who isn't in on upper class mores, a Patek Philippe might slip under their nose. The fact that a watch can cost as much as a decent sized house astounds me. A homeless man getting into a Lamborghini. Oh, gold digger pranked. So this is totally anecdotal, but I went to school with a lot of actually wealthy people while being lower middle class myself, scholarships and whatnot. And what I've always found is a sort of confidence in their perspective and worldview bordering on arrogance, like your average middle class person. And poorer person to an even greater extent has usually been sort of put in their place by life more than once. They're not super tied to thinking that their way is the only best way because they've had to adapt quite a bit to the real world. Even when they are arrogant about their perspective, it's usually a more communal perspective that came from others, not like their personal perspective about themselves. Rich people on the other hand tend to have that Karen type of entitlement that says this is how things should be. This is how I should be treated and perceived, and anything else is wrong, unacceptable. They're not necessarily a-holes about it, but it's this kind of ego thing that's very apparent if you spend any significant time with them, and it carries through no matter if they go to grad school or work for a low-paying non-profit job or what. They might be wearing cheap clothes and driving a cheap car, but you can feel that attitude really quickly if you have experience with it. Edit. I expanded on this in a comment below and gave I think a better description of what I'm talking about here. When she is smoking hot and you look like a broke ass Ron Jeremy. If she tolerates that style of mustache, she's a keeper. First class seats, not business. I flew for company business, training, meetings the manager didn't need to go to but was expected to send someone to, etc. When I worked for Envoy Airline and we'd always list ourselves for standby for first class, we'd always go in a dress shirt and tie and people do look at you like they wonder how did you become so special. Beach please. I loaded luggage and de-iced planes to get here. Shitty looking clothes that are actually super expensive, like Fear of God stuff. No labels. Bespoke clothing doesn't need a big ad. Everything is a perfect fit and new. Understanding many millionaires are cokeheads, but very few cokeheads become millionaires. I don't know about that. Coke is expensive. You can be a poor crackhead, but it's literally just logistically difficult to be a poor cokehead. They're never home and constantly traveling. Could just be a truck driver. I read somewhere riches scream and wealth whispers. Money talks, wealth whispers. It poor people describing other poor people trying to look rich. Actual rich people run the entire range of looks that you see from non-rich people, but usually look like upper middle class people because that's sort of the efficiency point of price and quality. Source. Went to school with lots of actually rich people. No logos. Subaru Legacy, rather than Range Rover. Beaten up watch, usually a Jaeger LeCoultre. Being called Ralph but pronouncing it Rafe. When asked about their income they respond with I am comfortable without elaborating. I remember being in a cruise and one of the families in one of the penthouse suites didn't sleep in their suite when we were at Bora Bora overnight because they had rented an overwater bungalow, minimum $1,000 a night. Same family got a hotel room when anchored at another atoll because they wanted to use the hotel services while spending time on the white sand beach. My boss drives a $2,000 Mercedes from the 80s, usually wears jeans and shitty clothes at all times, no jewelry or watch, owns a $150k USD house. He's worth $2 billion. Truth is, if you are the boss owner of the company making big money, play it down, the employees will like you more, work harder if you are a show off. They are certain to beach, drive a piece of shit car to work, keep nice shit at home. Getting on a long haul flight in first class wearing sloppy clothes because you haven't had to blag an upgrade. The person screaming I'm way richer than I look. Not knowing the price of cheap food at all, such as instant ramen or cheapest shitty sandwich. My grandma's father is CEO of Huge Car International Corporation, so when we went to store along she was so surprised seeing the price of cheapest instant ramen, and also she said that doesn't know how they actually taste with kind of confused innocent face, without any being cokey. Brand new car, top of the range, all the optional extras, but it's a Toyota Corolla. There's a rich neighborhood near where I live, £1,000,000 symbol plus houses and the like, and a picturesque part of town that looks like the lid to a biscuit tin. You'd expect Range Rover and Audi as far as the eye can see, but almost everything is a small hatchback. It's wild walking past this giant, almost stately looking home, and on the driveway is a Fiat 500 and a Ford Fiesta. Wearing casual clothes to a rich party. People who make money by owning stuff and not by producing anything. A lot of small in the know things, like a certain wristwatch that costs a fortune but for most people is indistinguishable from afar from say a €2,000 watch or a really expensive pen. There's a lot of famous really expensive looking clothes and accessories like Dolce & Gabbana or Mont Blanc. Stuff that's noticeable and recognizable. But then there's a whole bunch of way more discreet fashion and design brands that can cost a tenfold more and are at first glance indistinguishable from the normal high price range. They usually have a discreet logo or a distinct feature by which you can tell them apart. While they certainly have a good quality lots of times, their price performance ratio is basically non-existent. So I think they exist only for the precise purpose of saying I'm way richer than I look. My GF. She goes around with like casual clothes. I know for a fact her mom runs a company with like 9 different important patents and they have a duckload of money. Also my boss at work walks around with dirty clothes while making I believe about $100k a month. Not always the case, but when the person does not have the latest iPhone or has some weird older Android. Black polo neck and jeans. My bank account. Nonchalant stock market talk. Their keys have a divot tool attached. Boat shoes. Doing really well at a lot of mobile games at the same time. No keys. Going to expensive places dressed like a homeless and don't give a f. One of my high school bros is ducking rich, while rest of us are very normal. He did nothing special, but he always wander around at near shops after school, some random branded shop that no high school boys will ever need. One time we finally asked him why he didn't went back home after school. He said he is waiting for his driver to come. Another time I met him very coincidentally at the boarding place at the airport. I was going to Vienna and he is to London. He has nothing on him, no bags or carriages, and his hair is wet. Turns out he just took a shower in the lounge. Afterward, we are still very good friends. Good credit score. I'm convinced that being rich has little to do with how much money you earn and more with how you handle your expenses. A good credit score indicates that you're managing your expenses well. Mark Zuckerberg in his grey shirt and jeans. A sedan with a V12. Someone who is rich but doesn't show off immediately. Whoa, you made it to the end? You're a ducking beast. I'll cut you a deal. Smash like and subscribe for more curated content, bruh. It's free and that's a great price.